Learn with the nerds, Power Automate, taking you from beginner to pro, no delay.
In our session, we will cover triggers, conditional logic, looping actions, approvals, robotic process automation, and some administrative work. To register, scan the QR code here. I'll see you there.
Flow masters in the house, don't hesitate. Learn with the nerds, will make you elevate. Power Automate, a tool to navigate from beginner to pro. Let's collaborate. Ooh, yeah.
Well, hi there, and welcome to this preview session with John Silva. My name is Brian Knight as well. John, you're the first Learn with the Nerds speaker to ever get a theme song. So how does that make you feel? I think it's pretty awesome.
It was pretty catchy. I kind of like that one. That's pretty cool.
Also. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, welcome if you're joining us from wherever in the world. I see people all around the world right now that have joined us. John, the goal of this session is to kind of lay out the groundwork for the next session, right? To kind of make sure people are prepped properly. So to start with, what are we going to cover in this session, this Learn with the Nerds session coming up?
Yeah, for this one, what we really want to do is obviously with our name here is to take everyone from pretty much never working with Power Automate before to give you a really strong foundation onto what is Power Automate, how do I get there, what am I doing when I get there, to really then dive into some of the really popular use cases and how exactly to build and edit Power Automate workflows in the cloud.
That's awesome. Now I noticed one of our directors actually put the link in the below us right now. There we go. I'll get that out of the way for a second here. John, what are they going to learn in this session for those that are just joining us?
Yeah, specifically what we're going to cover is it's actually quite a bit because we have a really packed 3 hours. But what we want to do is really talk about some of the navigation around Power Automate. We'll do a brief conversation or discussion on some licensing options and what you can do based upon generally what you're paying for at that time. And then work with Power Automate templates, how to build flows from scratch, including the different types of triggers we have with Power Automate. Then as we start to build out, we'll take a look at some of the more popular use cases and controls that we have with Power Automate to really set up a dynamic workflow to work pretty much the same way each time, regardless of the data that's getting passed into that specific scenario.
Awesome. Can they play along with you in some cases, or what in this case?
Yeah. So what I'll do is we're going to have within our course materials or course files that are going to be downloadable, there's going to be some things that you can download as a participant to really be able to try to follow along as possible. Now, I put a pretty big caveat on that because we're not going to be able to really pause and make sure everyone's with us every single time. So if you do want to follow along, do your very best to do that. I do recommend, though, to try to revisit us after the fact. We are going to record this and have this available. So if you really want to follow along with every single step, it may be a little bit too quick for you to do that in every single scenario, but you're absolutely welcome to do so. Just check us the next time around to be able to do everything and pause and fast forward and rewind and all that kind of cool.
That's the best thing about YouTube, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, based on that, if I am going to participate in this session, what do I need to have to actually participate? What kind of knowledge do I have? What materials do I need? What kind of license do I need?
Yeah. So really the big thing is you have to kind of know your way around some of the Microsoft options. Anyone with a general Microsoft Office 365 subscription, their work or school email that has Teams and has, forms or SharePoint will be able to really follow along with everything we're working with because Power Automate comes with that license. You do need to be able to go ahead and build out a SharePoint list and Microsoft Forms and also be able to send out emails. So hopefully you know your way around Outlook and to be able to work with Forms and SharePoint. If not, I'll do a pretty brief discussion of like, what is this? How are we using it? And that kind of good stuff. But really the time that we're going to spend together is for anyone, really. If you have really no experience with Power Automate, or if you've worked with it before. Again, our name there is really important. There is beginner to pro. So we want to be able to get everybody involved in working with Power Automate to try to get you a little bit of that level up.
Yeah, I'm out of curiosity. When you train in Power Automate, you've trained hundreds of classes now in Power Automate and Power Apps. Who is your typical persona that you train? Is it our developers? Are they high end, like hardcore developers? Is it going to be analysts or project managers? Who are those people you think?
It varies every single day. And that's one of the cool parts about the Power Platform and what Power Automate's part of, is because you don't have to be a developer. You don't have to be an administrator. You could be just a general business user, or somebody that's really wanting to set up these automated processes to be more productive. So as long as you know your way just generally around, the internet, and can work with different types of applications, Microsoft-based applications, as long as you want to go ahead and take something that's repetitive and automate that process, Power Automate's for you.
Awesome. Well, with that in mind, you said Power Automate's for me. What are some common examples we can use to really automate our jobs, to make it where we're not having to do this stuff manually?
Yeah, I mean, Power Automate's great at monitoring different applications that we have, so it can monitor our email. So anytime we get an email, we can either send ourselves a message inside of Microsoft Teams with who sent me an email and when. Maybe you're just not looking at your Outlook at that time. Or you could take your email attachments and store them somewhere automatically every single time. We can work with SharePoint, document library, or lists, Microsoft Teams, Planner. There's just so many different things that we can work with. But really what Power Automate is intended to help us with is any type of rule-based task. If you have like a step 1, step 2, step 3 inside of something that you're trying to accomplish, Power Automate is really great to go ahead and handle those specific actions in that order to help us, again, be more productive with our time.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned licensing. Now, we're not going to break a Ouija board out to really get deep into licensing here, but for the presentation that you're doing next week, will they need a full-blown Power Automate license, or are you going to do the Office version of it?
Yeah, we're going to be using the Office version of Power Automate, which means we're going to be using our standard connectors. So the connectors we're going to be working with are Microsoft Forms, SharePoint, and Outlook. So if you have access to those right now, you're good to go.
Awesome. Now, you also mentioned there's a lot of different flavors of Power Automate. Now, there are, of course, the instant flows and scheduled flows, but there's also these weird things I see called desktop flows. What are those, and when would I use those versus regular Power Automate?
Yeah, desktop flows, for a lot of us, we don't even know what they are until we need to go into it. But really what a desktop flow is you can use some RPA, robotic process automation, as necessary to essentially record yourself completing actions either on your desktop, so an on-premises based application. Maybe it's an Excel file you have stored on your machine, on your desktop, on your C drive, on a shared drive, or it's something that you need to go through your general internet browser to do something. Power Automate Desktop is intended to help us go down that path to accomplish our task. The way that I usually like to think about it is I always start with Power Automate in the cloud first, see if I can do the job, do the task with Power Automate in the cloud. And then if not, Power Automate Desktop is a great backup to have to go ahead and handle just about anything else that we want to accomplish.
Yeah, especially there's no API for that. The Power Desktop flows make a lot of sense. We've had a lot of those legacy applications that we have to get data from, and there's just no way to get data other than having a human actually click next, 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 and have that desktop flow is pretty amazing in that case.
Absolutely.
Well, I know we're almost wrapped up here, but how do you register for this event? I know we have our marketing team in the background. If you wouldn't mind to put that overlay, there we go. I'll get that out of the way. And John, what other things would you like the people to know about this session we're going to cover next week?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple people reach out via email already asking about what do I need to get ready for this. Generally speaking, as long as you have any experience, again, working with Microsoft in the cloud, if we're talking about 365 and being able to work around that. Again, I'll have some of the course files available, hopefully ahead of time, that we can have available to download, definitely once we go ahead and get started. And I'm going to walk you through setting up the data as well. So walk you through getting the form organized if you want to do that, because it's all going to be recorded for us, and the SharePoint list. So to get prepared for our time, if you want to go ahead, check out our YouTube channel. we have a Power Automate Basics kind of playlist available for you. So if you want to check out any of those to see what I put out there for us, to just get a heads up and feel for what exactly are we talking about with Power Automate. But there's really nothing else that you need to prepare as long as you're comfortable getting to Power Automate at make.powerautomate.com. That's really all you need, because we're going to go from there and take everything step by step so you can go ahead and follow along and be successful through everything we're working with.
Well, the good thing is this is a redo of the same session, about 2 years ago, I believe, and nothing has happened in the platform in the last 2 years, right, John? What's been the most exciting progress that's happened, do you think, since the last time we filmed this?
Well, we have a completely different look to Power Automate. It's the new UI for Power Automate that includes Copilot is very different than what we've seen in the past. And we can still use the classic designer if we want, but we're going to focus on using this new designer that we have so that you can see all the new introductions and features that Power Automate has. But really what we're going to focus on this time is a little bit more of that, of course, that modernization that Power Automate has gone through, but also focus a little bit more on general broad use cases. So we'll do more cloud flows, a little bit different. We're going to do some the same as last time to have that foundation, but we're also going to change things up. So you also have a new opportunity to see different types of cloud flows and how we can use Power Automate cloud flows to, again, be more productive.
That's awesome. Now, how about AI that's been integrated recently? Copilot's been integrated. How much do you feel like it's ready to make that leap for users?
Yeah, so it's there. We can build out cloud flows with this process in Power Automate called Describe It to Design It, where you just simply say what you want the flow to do. And it does a really good job of being pretty close to exactly what you're asking. Now, anything, if we all work with Copilot or ChatGPT, the prompt is the king, right? You need to know how to prompt the question. And that's a big part about asking the AI what to do. But once you get a good prompt going and really asking it what you need, it generates a nice flow for you that can be edited and added to as you go through it. And while you're building, you do get Copilot open for you as well. So you can try to use that to help you as well. Now, there are some things that's still not quite there for to give us everything we want. But of course, we're still in the infancy stage of all the Copilot things that are coming out. But the Copilot's great for asking to validate certain things. It does a pretty decent job of creating some expression language for us that we can copy and paste. It's not fully there, but I think we're pretty close to being.
Yeah, it's amazing how far they've come in a year, right? That's incredible. Well, I have a question from Anthony here also. This is Anthony is from Uganda, asking a use case question here. I need to automate some asset management system to track history of assets from user to user and location to location. Would Power Automate make sense for that?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, I like to think of Power Automate as an in tandem service a lot of the time. So if you're working with Power Apps or another data source, it's really great at helping work with that data. As far as tracking users, what we could do with Power Automate, which is going to be a little bit data source dependent, like where is that data being stored? Let's say if it is in a SharePoint list, we can track who's creating the item in that SharePoint list. We can have a column of created by or modified by or assigned to, and we can see over time how those updates are going. And one of the great things Power Automate can do is it can modify that list. It can modify that data source and tell us when an update has gone out. So it can give us a lot of that up-to-date information, essentially a live feed of data as it comes in and things change for us over time.
And Anthony, this is a great use for Power Apps also, right? As you hit save, you show a before and after image. Things like Dataverse also can cover that. When a record changes, it can show you the history of that record change through automated means as well. It's a great question there, Anthony. And thank you for joining us. Chuck, let's put up that link one more time here for the session, to register. We look forward to seeing you next week. John, this is a 3-hour session, I believe, right? So this is a hardcore, taking you from ground up all the way to at least, hopefully, the intermediate level as you get into this, till you're ready to do your first flow. Guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week for a live session on Beginner to Pro. Thanks so much.
Thanks.